The coffee cup flew across the restaurant before anyone could stop it. It struck the young waitress across the shoulder and chest, spilling hot coffee over her white uniform. She gasped and stumbled backward, one hand gripping the edge of the table to keep herself upright. The entire luxury restaurant fell silent. Then the billionaire CEO walked through the doors. He stopped. His eyes moved from the trembling waitress, to the shattered cup on the floor, and finally to his wife. What he said next would change 3 lives forever. But before we begin, if you believe that kindness matters more than money, stay with this story until the very end. And if stories about unexpected second chances touch your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. You never know when a simple act of kindness might change someone's life. The restaurant was called Aurelia, one of the most expensive dining rooms in the city. Its marble floors reflected the soft white lights hanging above crystal tables. Business executives, celebrities, and wealthy families came there because privacy mattered almost as much as the food. At table 12 sat Victoria Hayes, the wife of billionaire CEO Adrienne Hayes. Victoria was 38, elegant, confident, and accustomed to being noticed wherever she went. She wore a designer cream-colored dress, a diamond bracelet, and a watch that cost more than most people earned in several years. Across from her sat 2 friends who had spent the afternoon discussing fashion, vacations, and an upcoming charity gala. Victoria glanced at her phone. "Where is he?" she asked impatiently. Her friends smiled. "Adrienne said he'd meet you here after his board meeting. He always says that." Victoria looked toward the entrance. Adrienne Hayes was 39 years old and the founder of Hayes Global, a technology and investment company that had grown from a small office into an international empire. Newspapers called him one of the city's most successful young CEOs. But Adrienne had never cared much about those headlines. He had grown up in a small apartment with his mother, who had worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table. He remembered eating simple dinners, wearing second-hand clothes, and watching his mother count coins at the kitchen table. That was why, despite his wealth, Adrienne still believed a person's character mattered more than their bank account. Victoria didn't always understand that part of him. A young waitress approached their table. Her name was Emily Carter. She was 24 years old, with dark brown hair tied neatly into a low ponytail, warm brown eyes, and a gentle expression that often made nervous customers feel comfortable. Emily had been working at Aurelia for 8 months. She was saving every dollar she could because her mother had recently lost her job, and Emily was helping support their small household. She approached table 12 carrying a fresh cup of coffee. "Mrs. Hayes, your coffee," Emily said politely. "I'm sorry for the wait." Victoria barely looked at her. "I asked for it 10 minutes ago." "I know, I apologize. The machine was being cleaned, so I don't need an explanation." Emily lowered her eyes. "Of course, ma'am." She placed the cup carefully on the table. As she turned away, Victoria suddenly noticed something. A small drop of coffee had landed on the edge of her designer handbag. Victoria's face changed immediately. "You?" Emily turned around. "Yes, ma'am, look at my bag." Emily's eyes widened. "I'm so sorry. You spilled coffee on it." "I didn't mean to. I can get a clean cloth immediately." Victoria picked up the handbag and examined the tiny mark. "Do you have any idea how much this costs?" "No, ma'am, obviously." Emily swallowed. "I'm truly sorry. I'll make sure it's cleaned." Victoria stood. "You people always say you're sorry after ruining something." The restaurant grew quiet. Emily looked embarrassed. "I'll call my manager." Victoria's voice became sharper. "You should be more careful with other people's property." "I understand. Do you?" Emily nodded. Then Victoria picked up the coffee cup. For one terrible second, Emily didn't understand what was happening. Victoria threw the coffee. The hot liquid splashed across Emily's shoulder and upper chest. Emily cried out and stepped backward. The cup fell from Victoria's hand and shattered on the marble floor. Nobody moved. Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she tried desperately not to cry. I'm sorry," she whispered. Victoria stared at her. "Clean this up." Emily looked at the broken cup. Then she looked toward the kitchen. Her hands were trembling. That was when the restaurant doors opened. Adrienne Hayes walked inside. He had expected to find his wife waiting for him. Instead, he saw a young waitress standing frozen beside a broken cup, her uniform stained with coffee, while Victoria stood over her. Adrienne stopped walking. "Victoria." His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Victoria turned. "Adrienne." He walked toward them. "What happened?" Victoria immediately changed her expression. She spilled coffee on my bag and then made a scene. Adrienne looked at Emily. Is that true? Emily opened her mouth, but no words came. Her manager, Mr. Collins, hurried over. Mr. Hayes, there was a misunderstanding. Adrienne looked at the manager. That's not what I asked. Mr. Collins hesitated. Adrienne looked back at Emily. Did you spill coffee on her? Emily shook her head. No, sir. Then what happened? Emily looked at Victoria. Victoria's eyes warned her not to speak. Emily lowered her head. Mrs. Hayes threw the coffee. Silence filled the room. Adrienne slowly turned toward his wife. Did you throw it? Victoria crossed her arms. It was an accident. Adrienne's expression hardened. An accident? She was careless. That doesn't answer my question. Victoria looked away. Adrienne took a breath. Did you throw the coffee? Victoria finally said, yes. A few people at nearby tables looked down at their plates. Adrienne's face showed disappointment rather than anger. He walked toward Emily. I'm sorry. Emily looked confused. Sir, you didn't deserve that. Victoria stared at him. Adrienne, you're embarrassing me. He turned toward her. No, you embarrassed yourself. Victoria's face went pale. You are taking the side of a waitress over your wife. I'm taking the side of someone who was treated unfairly. Victoria laughed bitterly. You don't even know her. That doesn't matter. He looked at Emily again. Are you hurt? I'm okay. That's not what I asked. Emily hesitated. My shoulder is burning a little. Adrienne immediately asked the manager to bring a first aid kit and arrange medical attention if needed. Victoria rolled her eyes. You're making this much bigger than it is. Adrienne looked at her. It became bigger when you decided someone's dignity was worth less than your handbag. Victoria said nothing. Emily quietly thanked Adrienne. He nodded. Then something unexpected happened. Emily looked at Victoria and said, I forgive you. Victoria blinked. Adrienne looked surprised. Emily continued softly. I don't want you to think I'm saying what happened was okay. It wasn't, but I know what it's like to have a terrible day and make a mistake you regret. Victoria stared at her. For the first time, she looked uncomfortable. Because Emily's forgiveness made her anger seem even uglier. Adrienne helped Emily arrange a ride home. Before she left, Emily looked back. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Adrienne smiled. You don't have to thank me for doing what anyone should have done. Emily walked out. Victoria remained at the table. You made me look foolish, she said. Adrienne shook his head. You did that yourself. Are you seriously going to lecture me because of a waitress? No. He picked up his coat. I'm going to ask myself why the woman I married thought it was acceptable to humiliate someone simply because she believed she was more important. Victoria's expression changed. You think you're better than me? No. Adrienne paused. I think you can be better than this. He left the restaurant. That night, Emily sat at her kitchen table with her mother, Margaret. Margaret immediately noticed her daughter's shoulder. What happened? Emily told her. Her mother became upset. You should have reported her. I did tell the manager. And what did he say? He apologized. Margaret sighed. Emily reached across the table and held her mother's hand. Mom, I need this job. You shouldn't have to accept humiliation to keep a job. I know. Emily looked down. But we need the money. Margaret squeezed her hand. One day, Emily, you'll work somewhere nobody can make you feel small. Emily smiled. I hope so. The next morning, Emily returned to Aurelia. She expected whispers. Instead, the manager called her into his office. I need to apologize, Mr. Collins said. Emily sat down. About yesterday? Yes. He looked ashamed. I should have protected you immediately. I didn't. Emily remained silent. Mr. Collins continued. Mr. Hayes contacted me this morning. Emily's eyes widened. He did. He didn't threaten me. He didn't demand that I fire anyone. He simply asked whether our staff had proper protections and whether incidents like this had happened before. Emily frowned. Have they? The manager hesitated. Not like yesterday. He slid an envelope across the desk. What's this? Your medical expenses. Mr. Hayes arranged for them to be covered. Emily pushed it back. I can't accept this. It's not charity, Mr. Collins said. It's compensation from the restaurant. Emily looked at him. After a moment, she accepted. Meanwhile, Adrienne sat in his office staring at a report. The report wasn't about Emily. It was about his wife. For years, Adrienne had ignored small signs. Victoria had mocked waiters. She had dismissed assistants. She had complained about drivers. She had treated employees differently depending on their position. Adrienne had always told himself she was simply stressed. But yesterday had forced him to see the truth. That afternoon, He returned home. Victoria was sitting in the living room. You came back. Of course. She looked at him. Are you still angry? I'm disappointed. What's the difference? Anger fades. He sat across from her. Disappointment changes how you see someone. Victoria looked away. I said I was sorry. Did you apologize to Emily? No. Why? Victoria didn't answer. Adrienne stood. Then that's where you start. Victoria laughed. You expect me to go find a waitress and apologize? I expect you to go find a person you humiliated and apologize. She stared at him. For several minutes, neither spoke. Finally, Victoria asked, what if she doesn't forgive me? Adrienne answered quietly. Then you accept that. The next day, Victoria went to Aurelia. Emily was carrying a tray when she saw her. She froze. Victoria approached slowly. I came to apologize. Emily put the tray down. Okay. Victoria took a breath. I was wrong. Emily listened. I was angry about my bag, but that doesn't excuse what I did. I treated you as though you were beneath me. Emily nodded. Victoria's voice trembled slightly. I'm sorry. Emily looked at her. Thank you for saying that. Victoria seemed surprised. You forgive me. Emily gave a small smile. I'm trying. Victoria nodded. I don't expect anything else. She turned to leave. Emily called after her. Mrs. Hayes. Victoria turned. Your bag wasn't ruined. Victoria looked confused. The mark came off after we cleaned it. For the first time, Victoria smiled sadly. That makes what I did even worse. Emily nodded. Yes. Victoria left. But the story didn't end there. A week later, Adrienne received a call from the manager. Mr. Hayes, you asked about Emily. Yes. She quit. Adrienne frowned. Why? Her mother lost her job again. Emily is taking care of everything at home. Adrienne thought for a moment. What is she doing now? She applied for an administrative position at several companies. Adrienne remembered something. His company had an opening in customer relations. He asked the hiring department to review her application, not because she had been mistreated by his wife, but because he wanted her qualifications evaluated fairly. Emily was invited for an interview. She arrived nervous. The hiring manager asked, why do you want this position? Emily answered honestly, because I want a career where I can grow. What did you learn from working at Aurelia? Emily smiled. That every person deserves respect, regardless of what they're wearing, how much money they have, or what job they do. The manager wrote something down. And what is your greatest strength? Emily thought for a moment. I don't give up easily. She got the job. Months passed. Emily became one of the company's most respected employees. She was patient with difficult customers, kind to new employees, and willing to help anyone who needed it. Adrienne occasionally saw her working late, but he never treated her differently because of what had happened. He wanted her success to belong entirely to her. Victoria also began changing. She volunteered at community events. She started learning the names of restaurant staff. She stopped measuring people by their clothes, cars, and titles. One evening, Adrienne and Victoria attended a charity dinner. Emily was there too, representing the company. Victoria walked over. Emily. Emily smiled. Mrs. Hayes. Victoria. Emily nodded. Victoria. They both laughed. It was a small moment, but Adrienne watched from across the room. He realized something. Money had built his company. But moments like this were building something much more valuable. A year later, Emily received a promotion. Her mother was there when she came home with the news. Margaret hugged her daughter. You did it. Emily smiled through tears. We did it. Meanwhile, Victoria stood in front of a mirror that evening, preparing for another charity event. She looked at her reflection. For years, she had believed wealth made her important. Now she understood something different. Wealth could buy a beautiful handbag. It could buy a luxury apartment. It could buy expensive dinners. But it couldn't buy character. That had to be built choice by choice. And Adrienne, he never forgot the young waitress who had stood trembling in a restaurant and still found the strength to forgive. Years later, Emily became the director of a foundation that helped hospitality workers receive education and career training. At the opening ceremony, Adrienne was invited to speak. He looked across the crowd and saw Emily standing beside her mother. He smiled. I once witnessed something that taught me a lesson I will never forget. He said, a person was humiliated because someone believed wealth made them more valuable. The room became quiet, but the person who was treated as though she were small turned out to have the biggest heart in the room. Emily lowered her eyes, smiling. Adrienne continued, success isn't measured by the people who stand when you enter a room. It's measured by how you treat the people who can do nothing for you. The audience applauded. After the ceremony, Emily approached Adrienne. Thank you, he smiled. For what? For seeing me as a person that day. Adrienne shook his head. You were always a person. I simply hope I reminded everyone else. Emily looked toward her mother. I used to think that one bad day could ruin everything. And now I know one bad day can become the beginning of something better. Adrienne smiled. That's the truth. Emily looked around at the people attending the event. The coffee hurt, she said quietly. But what hurt more was being treated like I didn't matter. Adrienne nodded. And what changed? Emily smiled. I learned that someone else's cruelty doesn't decide my worth. Those words stayed with everyone who heard them. Because sometimes the person standing in front of us has no expensive clothes, no powerful connections, and no impressive title. But they may carry a strength that money can never buy. The waitress who was once humiliated became a leader. The woman who once believed status made her superior learned humility. And the billionaire CEO learned that true leadership isn't about controlling people. It's about protecting dignity. So if this story touched your heart, remember this: never judge someone by their position, their clothing, their income, or the job they perform. The person serving your coffee may be supporting a family. The cleaner in your building may have dreams bigger than yours. The quiet employee may be fighting battles you know nothing about. A little kindness costs almost nothing. But to someone who desperately needs it, it can mean everything. And sometimes, the person you overlook today may become the person you admire tomorrow. If you believe everyone deserves respect, no matter where they come from, don't forget to like this story and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories about kindness, courage, and second chances. Because you never know whose life you might change with one simple act of kindness.